Okay, Simon Reish Samach Gimel. Sifyat Beis, a very interesting halacha. If you're in a place where Roiv Tzibur was Mekabel Shabbos already and you weren't Mekabel Shabbos yet, Shulchan Aruch says that you're Nigrar, you get schlepped along with the rest of the Tzibur. Whether you want to be Mekabel Shabbos or not is irrelevant. Im Roiv HaTzibur, Im Roiv HaKol Kiblu Aleim Shabbos, Hamiyot Nimshachem Achreim. So if Roiv Tzibur was Mekabel Shabbos, then it's Shabbos for you too. Regardless of whether you want it or not, the halacha is that you're Mekabel Shabbos with them. So what's the basis of this halacha? We don't find this halacha in Mefurish in the Gemara. So the Rishonim bring down this halacha. Where do they get it from? And what's the reason for this halacha that if Roiv Tzibur is Mekabel Shabbos and all of a sudden you, it's Chal and you, Isser Asiyas Malacha, you're not allowed to do Malacha anymore. So there are different Pirushim. The Shevet HaLevi says the reason why you're Asr B'Asiyas Malacha if Roiv Tzibur was Mekabel Shabbos because Chazal or Keveya, the Rishonim bring Rayas, Chazal or Keveya, that Mipnei Zilzal Shabbos, one should do Malacha in a place where Roiv Tzibur was Mekabel Shabbos. Mipnei Zilzal Shabbos, everyone should be Mekabel Shabbos together. That's the Shevet HaLevi explains. So how do we go about doing malacha regardless? We don't know when Roiv Tzibur, when it hits, 51%, when Roiv Tzibur, Roiv Manchester is Mekabel Shabbos. So how do we go about doing malacha? So Baruch Hashem, we have the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says that an ear sheyeshba, but the knesiyas harbe, if you have a few shuls, then you could belong to one shul that wasn't Mekabel Shabbos yet, even though most shuls, most people were Mekabel Shabbos already. But you could belong to that shul, that 10 people in a certain shul that weren't Mekabel Shabbos yet, and then you're okay. And Baruch Hashem, which place doesn't have two shuls? You know the famous joke, the fellow was on an island, he built two shuls, one that he davens in and one that he doesn't daven in. So, Baruch Hashem, every Jewish community has more than one shul. And as long as one shul wasn't Mekabel Shabbos yet, then you're still okay. Except, Baruch Shulchan says except, if you belong to the shul that's Mekabel Shabbos. If you belong to that shul, you're a member, and that's where you usually daven, it's not going to help you to say, well, I associate myself right now, this Shabbos, with another shul. If you're an Or Yerushalayim guy, then you got to go with Or Yerushalayim. You can't say, well, today I'm going to daven the Vine Street, so it's like I'm not, can't do that. So you got to go with your shul. That's the Aruch HaShulchan. Machzor Shekel, the person can say that if you have your minyan kavua, it's not going to help you that there's another shul in town that wasn't Mekabel Shabbos yet.
So if you're your Shalim brings in very early, so if you're coming from someone else, which brings in much later, how does it work? Do you have to stay where you are?
Or if you're an oirach by a person,
right.
If you're a guest by a person that's in
right.
That's an Or Yerushalayim guy, then you got to go with wherever you're staying.
Oh, right. So you can't just stay with what you've got.
If you're here as a guest and you're doing your own thing, you can choose which shul to be associated with. But if you're usually an Or Yerushalayim guy, or even if not, even if you're staying by a person that's an Or Yerushalayim guy, then you're nimshach that person. That person, your balabas is an Or Yerushalayim guy. That's where you're staying for Shabbos. But unless you're a neutral type of guy, then you could choose. Rav Moshe has a very interesting heter. Moshe says that really, this is a big way out of this. Rav Moshe says that the whole halacha that you're nimshach achar tzibur is only if the tzibur is Mekabel Shabbos, mishum kavod Shabbos. They make an early Shabbos because of kavod Shabbos, kedushas Shabbos. But if they make an early Shabbos because they want to go to sleep earlier, because they want to have a rest, or they want to eat because they're hungry, it's for their own personal reasons. The Moshe says there we don't say this klal of your nimshach achar tzibur, or after your bis medrash. Klal is only said when the tzibur is Mekabel Shabbos with Pnei Kedushas Shabbos. What if you have, interesting shayla can come up, what if you have one shul which has two minyanim? An early minyan, make an early Shabbos, and a later minyan. So is that considered like two Batei Midrashim? Do we consider like two bataknesiyos? Let's say the early minyan is Roiv, and then there's a Miyat who daven a little later. By the way, I'm not familiar, but in Manchester, that in the summer, they have a very, it comes in very, very late. Are there minyanim that actually are Makabel Shabbos like at 10 o'clock?
Oh, danke.
Lubavitch.
Oh, danke, pak me
World Cup on
No, so this is mamish. So this is mamish. The Roiv Manchester, you would say, is Makabel Shabbos early. No, Roiv Manchester is Makabel Shabbos early. You have the Miyat, which is Makabel Shabbos later. Now let's say, theoretically speaking, I'm not speaking dealing with Manchester. Baruch Hashem, Manchester has many Bata Midrashim. But let's say you have one base medrash, and Roiv of the town community is Makabel Shabbos early, and just a Miyat is Makabel Shabbos later. Right? So, do we say that it's like two Bata Knesiyas, and the Miyat that's Makabel Shabbos later is not Nigrar Basar the Roiv that's Makabel Shabbos early? Or do we say no, since they're davening the same shul, even though they're two separate minyanim, but they're davening in the same basic knesses, so we'll say that since Roiv is Makabel Shabbos early, so the Miyat is Nigrar Achareim. So this is a Machlokes HaPoskim. Rav Elyashiv is Meikel Baruch Hashem, and Rav Elyashiv says that if it's one shul with two minyanim, an early minyan and a later minyan, even if the early minyan is Roiv, the Miyat that davens later doesn't have to. It's not Nigra Basar the Roiv, the early minyan, because they have a minyan kivua. They have their own minyan kivua. Shmir Shabbos brings down. He says that another condition, which is also important to know, that the whole klal of Nimshach Achar Roiv is only if the Roiv is Makabel Shabbos together. But if they're Makabel Shabbos each one separately, then that there's no. Even though there's a Roiv, collectively speaking, there's a Roiv, because each individual is Makabel Shabbos, and you have a Roiv afterwards. Shmir Shabbos says, Shem Reb Shlomo Zalman, that's not a Roiv Tzibur that the Miyat would be Nimshach Achareihem. It's only if the Roiv is Makabel Shabbos together. Now, a very common shaila is, what if the husband is Makabel Shabbos early, and the wife isn't? She's not ready yet. So many times, if you make an early Shabbos, you'll see that the husband leaves an hour early to shul before Shkia, and his wife is still doing malacha. Now he, after 20 minutes in shul, being in shul, he's saying Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos, he's saying Baruch Hu Hashem Avarech, he's Makabel Shabbos, for him it's mamish full-fledged Shabbos. Do we say that his wife is Nigur Achar the husband? It's a new shaila. Is a wife Nigur Achar the husband? Reb Moshe says, Reb Moshe the Tshuva says, we haven't found really Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Berurah speak about this halacha. Reb Moshe in the Tshuva writes that a wife is not Nigur Achar her husband. She could still do malacha until the husband comes home. Bad luck neighbors. But one thing is for sure, this is interesting, he mentions that she cannot do malacha for him. That is an interesting halacha. Although if one is Makabel Shabbos early, the Shulchan Aruch says you could ask a yid to do malacha for you. Says, but a wife to a husband, not. Because since a wife has certain shibudim, she has to do certain things for her husband, certain malachas she's meshubah to do for her husband. So Moshe says, those malachas that she's meshubah to do, and that's already the isra of the husband not to have her do those malachas for him. Like we find there's a halacha, she says avdoi, she says behemtoi, all those malachas that a person is mechuyev to do to you, that is already the shvisa of the husband. The shvisa of the husband requires him to tell his wife not to do the malacha for him, and therefore that would be aser. But stam malachas that she does for herself, putting the kugel into the oven, stuff like that, that's really for the bias. It's not particularly to him, but that she's still allowed to do. She's not nigru. Of what?
If she's ready, she's lit candles.
Right. No, that's for sure not, because the minig of women are Makabel Shabbos Lukas Neiros, and we still do malacha afterwards. We still.
Look, and the husband did for her to do the kugel of the hot bed.
That's interesting. Probably if whatever shibudim, I'm saying if there are malachas, I'm not sure if there are, but if there are malachas which he has to do for her, the same halacha would apply. Same halacha would apply. I'm not sure if there are though. I don't know. Hatzos. No, that's her malacha to him.
About working, about making money. As in instead of the support, so let's say he's working very late, she's a couple hours before.
Interesting child. He's saying working. You have to support her. Like Chememka.
It could just be before her. It's not specifically for her, it's for bias.
Could be some bias, I'm not sure.
Probably have
I don't know.
Probably Hafsid as well. Malcolm Hafsid, you see that.
But Malcolm Hafsid will say that it's okay.
And,
It's a good child. You know, Rabbi Kiva Eger mentions also a very interesting thing. He says, if someone's Mekabel Shabbos early, and he wants to be Chayzer, he regrets after a few minutes he's Mekabel Shabbos, he realized there's a football game on, he really wants to watch. You can watch it on Shabbos also, whatever. Really.
It's a Gemara in Broch.
Then what?
They brought in Shabbos early, and then they realised...
Oh, we'll speak about that in a second. They realized that it was cloudy and it was really it was still before you could be Mekabel Shabbos. Talk about it in a second. But for any reason, he says that he brings a very interesting lavush. He says that if someone's Mekabel Shabbos early and he wants to retract, he wants to regret the Kabbalah Shabbos, he can be shoyl neder. He can be shoyl neder, go to a chacham, be mater neder, because Tosfos Shabbos, again, I'm not dealing with Tosfos Shabbos that you mechuyev mid'oraisa. We spoke about Tosfos Shabbos and mechuyev mid'oraisa. That's a few minutes before Shkia, that you can be shoyl neder. We're dealing with someone who, in the summer days, he made an early Shabbos, a few minutes before Shkia, well before Shkia. Lavush says that the entire Tosfos Shabbos, the Kabbalah Shabbos, and the early Shabbos, it's not really Shabbos yet. It's Kabbalah's neder. It's begeder of a neder, he says. And therefore he says you can be shoyl neder, you can be mater the neder, and then you could go back to chayil.
Design Shabbos.
It's a bizayin to Shabbos. Yeah. Yeah. If it's a tzarech mitzvah, l'mashal, like let's say if you got to daven mincha. Once you become a Shabbos, you can't daven mincha anymore. So what do you do? So the truth is, what the Shulchan Aruch says you should do, you should daven Ma'ariv twice. But in Ma'ariv twice, the second Ma'ariv would still be Ata Kidashta. It's still going to be a Shabbos de Geshem Esra, and he wants Ata Chayna, and he needs Bakashas, he needs Tzrochim, he needs Refereinu, he needs Baruch Aleinu, he's going to miss out on all these Tzrochim that he needs. He wants to retract. So the halacha is, Rabbi Kiva Eger makes the lavush. It's machlokes Paiskim, but the lavush, he's not a yochid. He says that you could be mater neder. Go to Chacham, be mater neder. Now what you're talking about, Gabi, is if let's say there was a Yom HaMa'unah, and the Shulchan Aruch speaks about this also. If let's say someone's Mekabel Shabbos, Tzibur's Mekabel Shabbos, they thought there was already mamash before Shkia. It was a cloudy day, and I'm sure here mentions it's very shchiach. Sometimes it's 12 o'clock noon. You could think it's mamash before Shkia. It's so gray and cloudy, and he thought that it's mamash before Shabbos, and he asked him Mekabel Shabbos already, and then he realized, oh, I still have a few hours left. So what's the halacha? The halacha is Kabbalah Shabbos betos. If you made a tos, you made a mistake, the halacha is it's not in a Kabbalah. It's not a Kabbalah. You can do malacha. That's only a man. A woman, if she lit candles, she's Mekabel Shabbos betos. There the Shulchan Aruch says she cannot be chayzer, even though it's betos. She's osir. It's osir for her to do malacha because she did a maisa. The maisa of adlakas neir is chamira tfei, and even though it was betos, the halacha is that she can't be chayzer. But a man who's just Mekabel Shabbos, that he could. Mishnah Berurah says that a man also, if he davened already, if it's Mekabel Shabbos and he davened, he wasn't just Mekabel Shabbos tamazai. He davened already. That's also we compare that to adlakas neir according to many achronim, and therefore a man should also, if he davened by mistake early, he thought that he's supposed to be davening already because it's already late. And then he finds out that it was just cloudy and gray, but really has plenty of time left to Shkia. If he davened already, Mishnah Berurah says that you should not be makel even for a man, only the Mokum Atchak. Mokum Atchak, that's when you could be makel. Like what's Mokum Atchak? Say if you didn't daven Mincha, I would say it's Mokum Atchak. But even a woman, even Mokum Atchak, she should not. If she lit candles, she can't be chayzer.
This is all after Plag. If it's before Plag, then...
Right, after we're dealing with after Plag, right. Before Plag, then it's mamish nothing. Right. Yeah, it's a very interesting, there's a very interesting Shoy Lameshav. He says that Kabbalah Betos, very interesting Shoy Lameshav, he says, Kabbalah Betos doesn't just mean, Mishnah Berurah brings him down, Mishnah Berurah brings this halacha. He says, Kabbalah doesn't just mean that it was cloudy outside. It means even if, let's say, it was Rosh Hashanah, right? Second day Rosh Hashanah, Erev Shabbos, and you realize you forgot to blow shofar. You forgot to hear shofar, and you were Kabbalah Shabbos early. He says, that's also considered Kabbalah Shabbos B'tos. Because you never would have been Makabal Shabbos had you remembered that you didn't hear Shofar yet. So that's also considered Kabbalah Shabbos, but it's not just that you thought it was already almost Shabbos and you had to be Makabal Shabbos. Even if you realized and remembered that you weren't Mekayim a mitzvah, that's also considered a toz, and it's bottle, and you can go and blow Shofar. Mishmur says don't make a bracha, but you can still blow Shofar because of Kabbalah Shabbos b'toz, ain't a Kabbalah. Alright, we'll stop over here.